Most of you already know about Operation Christmas Child, also known as the Shoebox Campaign, which is a project of the international relief organization Samaritan's Purse. It's become the world's largest children's Christmas project. Joining me to talk about this via Skype from Calgary is Frank King, the News Media Relations Manager with Samaritan's Purse. Frank, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me on board. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for any viewers who may be unfamiliar with it, what is Operation Christmas Child all about?
Operation Christmas Child involves generous Canadians packing shoeboxes full of school supplies, toys, and hygiene items, and then dropping off these shoeboxes at locations across Canada. Then all those thousands and thousands of shoeboxes are shipped to our processing center in Calgary, where every single one is inspected by volunteers to make sure there's nothing there that could scare or harm children or stop the boxes from getting through customs. From then, they are shipped out of Canada and down to countries in Central America and French-speaking West Africa, where our volunteers in those countries get them through customs and work with churches in those countries to distribute those boxes to children in need.
That's amazing. Now, how many kids in how many different countries have you reached?
Well, in terms of Canada, we've got approximately half a dozen countries that they're going to this year.
What are some of the different countries? I know you mentioned Central America and the
Yeah, yeah.
French African countries, right?
Yes, yes. So, for example, in Central America, they're going to children in Costa Rica, El Salvador, Nicaragua. In West Africa, they're going to Senegal, Ivory Coast, and one or two other countries. And the really special thing about this is, in many cases, these gift-filled shoeboxes are the first gift these children will have ever received in their lives.
That's incredible. Now, what are the ages of some of these kids receiving the gifts?
Well, when we explain to Canadians how this works, we ask them to pack shoe boxes. First of all, to pick their gender. Second of all, to pick one of three age ranges. That's 2 to 4, 5 to 9, or 10 to 14. And then, of course, on the Samaritan's Purse website, we have all kinds of suggestions about here's what works really well for each of these age groups, and here's also what not to put in your shoe boxes.
Right. Maybe we want to talk a little bit about that. What are some great items that we can pack for these kids? What are some of those wow items that really get their attention?
One really cool item we love it when folks put in is a soccer ball. So they deflate the ball, put it in the box, get one of those little pumps, because you can get them pretty small now, and the little needle, put that in the box as well. Then when the kids open it up, they can blow up the soccer ball right there on the spot and go out and play. So that's a fantastic wow item that we love it when kids put in their shoebox.
And then on the flip side, are there any items that you should not be packing for kids?
That's a great question. One of the things we ask people not to put in is no food items, no toothpaste, because any of those can stop the boxes from getting through customs. We also ask people not to put in anything that they think could scare or harm a child. This even goes to something like little water pistols. We ask folks not to put them in, for example, because in many cases, these children and their families have been through traumatic war, civil war, violence, family violence, even. And so, for those cases, opening their boxes and finding a little toy gun in there can be traumatic for the children. So, that's one example of things we ask folks not to put in. We also ask folks not to put in playing cards. And the reason for that is lots of families have been through a lot of difficulties with gambling addiction. And so for those playing cards in there, that can open the door to something that the parent might see the playing cards and start to play, and first thing you know is if they've been battling some addiction problems, that could open the door to it all over again. So that's another little example. And of course, folks can get all the information about what to put in and what not to put in at SamaritansPurse.ca.
Very interesting. Now, how do the kids and the families react to these gifts? Can you maybe share a story on what kind of impact this makes?
Yeah, it's really funny because some kids are very reserved. They'll open up their box, they'll look at it, then they'll close the box again, and they won't open it till they take it home to show it to their siblings and their parents. In other cases, the kids just go nuts. They are so excited. They're looking at each other's boxes. They're showing things. Sometimes they're trading things, which we're fine with. So that it's just amazing to see that range of sort of reactions. And the one thing the kids love to see too is, and we ask Canadians to do this when they're packing their shoe boxes, and that is put a note and a photo inside each shoebox they pack, because the kids love to see, who are these people from this country I may have never even heard of, who have packed this shoebox for me with all these cool things. So to have a picture or a note in there is really a cool thing to add in your box.
That's a great idea, actually. Now, does the shoebox also have an impact on the surrounding community?
Yes, it does. Let me give you an example of how the shoe boxes can make such a big difference. One of the things we ask folks to put in is school supplies, the paper, pencils, erasers, that kind of thing. And the reason we ask for that is even in countries where the education system is free, oftentimes the children have to provide their own supplies. For some families, that alone means their children will not be able to go to school. So by putting pencils and paper and erasers and that kind of stuff, rulers in the shoe boxes, that actually opens the door for children to go and join their friends at school and get an education. So that's a really key thing, how that can change whole communities when children suddenly get all these school supplies in their shoe boxes and start to get an education.
That's a fantastic idea, absolutely. Now, COVID has obviously affected everybody everywhere. So, how has COVID affected the way that you're doing the Christmas shoebox campaign?
Well, definitely, we've been in communication with our church partners across Canada because churches generally serve as drop-off locations for folks who want, who pack their shoeboxes. So we've been in communication with them with all kinds of suggestions as to, how to do contactless, make empty shoeboxes available for folks in a contactless way, and also how to drop off shoeboxes in a contactless way to ensure people are safe. In fact, we set up a whole COVID-19 information page on the Samaritan's Purse website that lists all kinds of suggestions and ways for folks to do this thing as safely as possible. And of course, we also have an alternate, and that is if folks are kind of unsure about it, they can also go to packabox.ca and pack their shoeboxes online.
That's cool. So, can you explain how it works to pack a box online through what was it, packabox.ca is what you said?
You
Yeah.
got it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So here's how we do it. We set it up as much as possible so that it echoes the traditional physical shoebox packing experience. So you pick your gender, your age range. You're presented with a basic sort of basket of items that you can add to if you want. And then once you've finished packing your shoe boxes online, you check out, you pay your money, and then boom, what happens is we have a whole bunch of volunteers that come into our processing center sort of the first couple of months of the year, and they physically pack the shoe boxes that folks have done online. And the neat thing about this too is we tell people you can also upload a note and a photo for each shoebox you pack. And then when our volunteers physically pack them, they download those notes and photos and they put them in the appropriate shoeboxes.
This actually sounds like a much easier way to even do it in the future when COVID hopefully isn't an issue anymore.
It's definitely my wife and I just packed our shoeboxes this year and we did it all online because it's just so easy to do.
Absolutely. Are you finding a bigger success rate with that?
We have already blown away the number of shoe boxes that were packed online from all of last year. We're
Oh,
already packed, yeah. And so we're expecting that to just keep going and going and going. And we're thrilled with that because we know that whether or not there's a pandemic, there are children in need around the world. There are children who have never received a gift in their entire lives. There are children who are waiting to go to school, and these things can make all that difference to them. So yeah, it's a great thing, and we're thrilled that folks are doing it that way.
that's great. So, National Collection Week for 2020 is this week, right? So, viewers have until this coming Sunday, November 22nd, to get their shoebox dropped off, right? So, yeah,
That is correct.
yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that deadline, and that's for the Christmas deadline, but you deliver all year round, don't you?
Yes, yeah, we deliver shoe boxes all year round, and The reason we do that is, number one, it takes time to process all these boxes, to get them through customs, to get them shipped down, to get them set up distribution events in the destination countries. But also, a lot of these shoe boxes are going to countries that are not that do not celebrate Christmas. So whether they get the box in December or August makes no difference to them. A wonderful gift is a wonderful gift no matter when they get it. So that's the key thing for us is bringing that simple joy to children any time of year.
Okay, so we're also told to include a $10 donation to cover the cost to get the shoebox to the kids. So is that cash, check, online? How does this work?
Yes. It can
Any,
be,
anything goes. Okay.
it can be cash, it can be check. We actually encourage people to do it online because that makes it simpler for them and simpler for us to process all these things and make it happen. And I should emphasize that this is a suggested donation. So even if people don't put that $10 in their box or put it online or whatever, that shoebox is still going to get to those children who need that joy and that hope. So it really is just a suggested thing to help us get those boxes down. And for anyone who thinks that's a lot of money, try shipping a shoebox full of stuff across Canada for $10.
Right.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, shipping is very expensive, unfortunately. So it's good to know that it'll still get there for the kids, even if somebody's unable to make that donation.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, we don't want that to stop people from packing shoeboxes for kids.
yeah. Now, I'm told that there's also a voluntary Bible study course, The Greatest Journey, that's made available for the kids and the families afterwards. Maybe talk about
Yes.
that and what the response has been like.
It's called The Greatest Journey. It's a 12-lesson evangelism and discipleship program that's offered to the children after they receive the shoe boxes. So they're under no obligation to participate in any way, shape, or form. We are thrilled with the number who have taken part. As I say, it's 12 lessons. It helps them learn who Jesus is. And so many children learn about him for the first time. And other ones who are already following Jesus, they learn about how to share their faith with their friends. And I've actually got a great statistic for you here. Let me see if I can find it here. Here it is. We're really praising God that in the last 11 years, he has used the Greatest Journey to bring more than 11 million children to faith in his son. That's an astounding number. And the other cool thing about it is, in many cases, God works through these children to bring their parents and their siblings to faith in Christ as well. So that alone is just powers us forward to make sure we keep Operation Christmas Child going every year.
And I also understand that you have a considerable focus on unreached peoples groups around the world. So, what's the impact so far, and what are your goals for that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, generally, Operation Christmas Child supports the work that Samaritan's Purse, sort of our umbrella organization, is doing. So, what happens is Samaritan's Purse uses shoeboxes, uses safe water, literacy programs, agricultural programs, disaster relief, a whole bunch of other things that Samaritan's Purse does to reach these unreached people groups. And that's generally populations that have 3% or less who profess to be Christians. And some of the results with that is, for example, we're partnering with to translate Bible stories and discipleship materials into dozens of languages where God's word is not known. We're also helping to plant churches in countries like Mexico, Moldova, Mongolia, Namibia, Philippines, and Senegal. And so our goal is to share the gospel with 290 unreached people groups in the next 5 years.
And once again, time is running out. National Collection Week for 2020 is this week, and we only have until Sunday. So people in Lethbridge can drop off their boxes at Park Meadows Baptist Church and also at the Mission Thrift Store. So how do viewers in other areas find out where their specific drop-off location is?
The simplest way is to go to SamaritansPurse.ca, and generally that homepage is now sort of all about Operation Christmas Child. Click on any of those links, and that will take you to a choice where you can actually pick where your drop-off locations are, and all you need to do is know your postal code. You put your postal code in the little slot, you click the button, it shows you all the closest drop-off locations, addresses, and operating hours within a 75 or even 200-kilometer radius. So yeah, just know your postal code, go to SamaritansPurse.ca, and it all happens simply from there.
Well, thanks so much, Frank. Frank King, News Media Relations Manager with Samaritan's Purse. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on board, and thank you for your support for what God is doing.